Welcome to Swartz Talkin Sports. I'm your host, Les Swartz. I almost didn't think I was going to make tonight's show. Crazy travel, but I'm here. And I've got two of my co-hosts with me. Number one, I've got Al, the Rattler Chester, former Florida A&M quarterback, national champion, 1978 Rattlers, and voice of the Rattlers basketball and football broadcasts. And we've got Benny the Book, the King of Carolina. He's going to be our co-host. We're checking out our very special guest today. So let's bring on our co-hosts.
Hey guys,
what's going on, Les? What's going on, guys?
Hey, Les.
Hey, I gotta tell you, it's 95 degrees in the shade here in Jacksonville, Florida. But I'm glad to be here. And I tell you what, you can fill the space, but you can't take the place of Les Swartz.
Oh man, listen to this guy, unbelievable. Al, you are a poet, and we all know it. So, well, guys, we've got a fantastic show. If you're a baseball fan, you're gonna love today's show. But before we bring on today's special guest, let's run the opening reel.
One out. We're in the bottom of the 12th. Up the middle. Can Smith get it? Ozzie dives. Can he have time? Oh, my goodness. What a play, Ozzie Smith.
Swartz Talkin Sports is proud to introduce, in my opinion, the greatest shortstop in Major League Baseball history, Ozzie, the Wizard of Oz, Smith. Ozzie.
Hi, guys. How are you?
Look out, Ozzie. Look out, pro. I tell you what.
We have the wizard. We have the wizard,
man. We got the wizard, man. I tell you what, I've always been a fan, man. And I tell you, it's heartwarming to have you here today, man. I'm glad you took the time out to share a little bit of love with us.
Well, thank you guys for having me.
Well, we're excited, and we have a lot of viewers out there. They're going to be asking some questions. So let's just jump right into it. Let's just jump right into it. Your career. A lot of people, think that you're a lifelong Cardinal. You really started your career with the San Diego Padres. I mean, I think you got drafted by the Tigers first, didn't sign, but then signed out of Cal Poly.
Yes, that's right. 1976, I got drafted by the Detroit Tigers. They offered me, at the time I was a junior, and they offered me $8,500. And in my infinite wisdom, I figured if they didn't give me 10 grand, they weren't going to take a real good look at me. So I went back and asked them for another 1,500, which they said they didn't have in the budget. And that was the same year they drafted Lou Whitaker and Alan Trammell.
Ooh.
And they had $8,500 and a bus ticket to Lakeland, Florida, ready for me. And they couldn't come up with the other 1,500. So I promised my mom that I was going to get my education. So I gambled on myself in hopes of getting drafted again my senior year, which I did by the San Diego Padres. And being the good businessman that I am, I signed for $5,000 and a bus ticket to Walla Walla, Washington, where I started my professional career.
Walla Washington.
Walla, Washington.
That's right. Walla Walla.
5,000.
Well,
you know what
5,000.
You know what he'd be worth today?
Oh my God.
I tell that story to let kids know that we're not all bonus babies. And, and sometimes you have to take a different route to the big leagues. And I certainly did. And I wouldn't change it for anything. I'm a strong believer in manifest destiny. And that was my road. And I enjoyed every bit of it. And like I say, I wouldn't change it for anything.
Well, you broke in fairly quickly into the majors. And boy, did you come in with a bang. I mean, I want to say it is the greatest defensive play I've ever seen made. I've seen Mays' catch. I've seen Edmonds' over-the-shoulder catch in center field. I'm telling you right now, the play that you made against the Atlanta Braves was the best defensive play I've ever seen. And I think maybe you can talk a little bit about it and just kind of how it just brought you to the forefront. All of a sudden, everyone knew who Ozzie Smith was after this play.
Well, it was a Thursday afternoon. Randy Jones is pitching. And, anytime I had to move left or right, the first thing that came to mind was diving. And I just had an innate ability to do that. And it wasn't just about diving, but it was being able to complete a play. And I had a friend of mine. I got traded for a guy who was probably one of the most talented players to ever don a pair of spikes in Gary Templeton. And when you get traded for a player like Gary, there's a lot of expectation. And he was still the only guy in the National League to get 100 hits from both sides of the plate. So there was always that pressure of being able to go out there and perform at a high level. But in doing that, I got a chance to do what I wanted to do. And that Thursday afternoon with Randy pitching, when I dove, the ball actually hit and went in a different direction. So my glove hand was gone. The only way for me to get it was to reach back with my bare hand, which I did. The ball stuck in, and I was able to scramble to my feet and throw Jeff Burroughs out at first base. And it wasn't until the following day that I realized, listening to the radio, a guy says, "I think I saw the greatest play I've ever seen in Major League Baseball yesterday." And it was at that point that it hit me that, hey, you know what? I had made a mark. That was the beginning of my career. And if I didn't make another play, that was one that was going to stand out for a long time. And it still stands out today as the best play I've ever made.
Well, I say you were such a tremendous athlete and obviously you had a spectacular career. But walk us back in time a little bit to where you grew up and where it all started. I mean, did you play any other sports coming up? I mean, you got quick feet, man, and you're like a point guard on the basketball court, and maybe a wide receiver in football, man. Talk to me. Let me know.
Well, yeah. Well, growing up in South Central Los Angeles, we played we played everything. We spent a lot of time outside, unlike kids today, so we played basketball. Basketball was really kind of my first love. And I played probably more basketball than I did baseball. And so being in South Central Los Angeles, it gave us the opportunity to experience a lot of different things, and one of the things that kept us busy, because as you can imagine, it was a tough place growing up. I was there in the riots in '63 and '65. I'm sorry. It was tough, but we kept ourselves busy through sport. And so I played a lot of basketball, didn't play much football, but I did run a lot. I wasn't a track guy, but I could run. And so I realized very early on in my career, the things that I was good at. I knew I had good hand and eye coordination. I used to throw the ball. I had a peaked roof. So I used to throw the ball up on one side and run around to the other side in hopes of catching it before it hit the ground. I used to throw the ball against the wall by myself, working on my forehand and my backhand. So it was that type of work and that type of determination that made me the player that I ultimately became. And the other thing, I used to lay on the floor and throw the ball up and close my eyes or getting the feel of the ball hitting the glove without seeing it. And it was those little things that made me the player that I became.
Outstanding.
Benny, I mean, you've been around baseball. You're a former baseball player. You played a little bit in college. I mean, any memories of Ozzie, like just how incredibly talented that he was in the field? I mean, you said he's probably the greatest defensive shortstop in the history of the game. And you're a historian when it comes to baseball.
Yeah, in my eyes, yeah, definitely. I mean, he did it all. And Oz, were you were always a switch hitter?
It wasn't until I went to college, Benny, that my first year there, my coach, a guy by the name of Bertie Harr, says to me, I'd like to ask you to try and do something for me. He said, I think with the way that you can run, we can take advantage of that if you learn to hit left-handed. And he says, have you ever tried that? And I said, no. So he gave me a field hockey stick.
Right.
That had the net on the end of it. And so that's really how I got started to switch hitting. He put me on that left-hand side, and I just started he would feed it to me, and I just started trying to catch the ball in that net. And that was kind of the beginning of it. And it wasn't until I was a freshman in college that I started switch hitting.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, that's
what about your favorite opening day antics? I mean, what does opening day mean to you, and what does it mean? And then blend that in with the flip, because there's got to be some action in there with the flip. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Well, as a kid, as I said, as a kid growing up in Southern California, we lived across the street from a wood factory where they used to build pallets. So there was always sawdust around. So we used to go over and tumble in the sawdust. We would put a plank between the stacks of wood and use that as our springboard, or we get empty inner tubes, and guys, my brothers or friends, would sit on the side of it, and you use that as kind of a springboard. And then on Thursdays, we went to Family Fun Center where they had trampolines in the ground, and we would tumble from trampoline to trampoline. So when I got to the big leagues in 1978, we had to run 2 miles after we finished working out. Well, I wasn't a long distance guy, so I wasn't one of the guys at the front of the pack. And so guys like Dave Winfield and Raleigh Fingers and Gaylord Perry gave me a hard time about being the young guy and being at the back of the pack. So to show them I wasn't tired, I did my round off backflip. And Gene Tennis, who was also a teammate, had girls that were involved in gymnastics. And he wanted me to show them that I could do that at some point in time during the season, which we weren't able to do. So the final day of the season, which was Fan Appreciation Day, they thought it would be a good idea for me to go do it going out to my position. I reluctantly did it, and people liked it so much, they asked me to do it opening day the following year, and lo and behold, a trademark was born. And I didn't do it every day. People thought I did it every day, but it was the beginning and the end of every season.
Now, you were part of the great, and you brought it up, shortstop swap. You and Gary Templeton, who was in St. Louis, and I believe he might have won a batting title one year with St. Louis. And we've got a couple questions. We're going to get to those right away after this. But your initial reaction, you go to the Padres, it's your first team, you get called up by the Padres as major leaguer. And you're a Southern California kid.
Yes.
St. Louis, was it just kind of a foreign thing? Were you really kind of disappointed that they were trading you, or what was your thought process at that time?
Well, at the time I had a no trade clause in my contract, which was kind of unheard of, but my agent was able to negotiate that in my deal. And that was one of the things that they didn't tell Whitey Herzog when he came out to visit me in San Diego. But when that trade was consummated, I certainly knew that I was going to be coming to an organization that was rich in tradition. It was going to give me an opportunity to experience what we all get into the game for, and that's to win. So I knew that at the time, being in San Diego, it was a revolving door, and they were not they didn't have the stability in the organization that a St. Louis Cardinal organization had. And so I knew it would be a better situation. And so I held out because I had the no trade clause. And it wasn't until Whitey was able to figure out how to get around the no trade clause, which allowed me to okay the deal. And my life changed at that point.
Now, we do have a couple questions before we get started. So, Joni, you want to throw a couple questions
Sure.
at the Wizard of Oz?
Yes, absolutely. Of course, there was a third question, but he answered it about the backflip.
Okay.
We wanted to know the origins of that. Rob asks, as a switch hitter, which side are you more dominant?
Well, I had more power. I was a natural right-handed hitter, so I had more power right-handed. I lost a little of that when I tore my rotator cuff in 1985. But there are more right-handers than left-handers, so I certainly hit more left-handed than I did right-handed.
All right, good question, Rob. The one, Joni?
Yes, from Rich Trotta. He wants to know, what do you think of Volpe? Hopefully I said that right, for the Yankees.
Oh, the shortstop from the Yankees?
Yep.
Yes, he's been very exciting, and I think he's one of those players that has given them the stability, much like Brendan Crawford did for the San Francisco Giants. You get that stability up the middle, and all of a sudden, you have a guy back there that pitchers can rely on. And when you can have that type of consistency and that type of give a pitcher that type of confidence, it makes for a better club. And I think we see that in the way that the Yankees are playing this year.
Ozzie, 15-time All-Star, 13 consecutive Gold Gloves, which is unparalleled. I mean, that's just, you want to talk about consistency. That's consistency. But something, you guys, I'm not going to say it was your biggest moment personally, but you had an incredible moment in the 1985 divisional series against the Dodgers. You stared down Niedenfuer, I believe it was the pitcher, and you can tell the story.
Yeah, well, here again, one of the things that for our generation of player, and I'm talking about from Tony Gwynn to Cal Ripken to Eddie. We wanted to be as well-rounded a player as we could possibly be, being able to play on both sides of the ball. And we took pride in being able to be well-rounded. And I think that it was at that point that people started looking at Ozzie Smith as much more than just a defensive player. I always worked extremely hard on being a better offensive player. I wasn't a power hitter, but I did all of the little things that it takes on a daily basis that gives your team the best chance to win. And so 1985, I'd learned to pull the ball, and I was actually trying to get the ball down in the corner, get myself in scoring position. But the Dodgers had always pitched me in, soft stuff away, hard stuff in. And I'd learned to turn on the ball, and through all the hard work and the blood, the sweat, and the tears that I had put into it. And he supplied the power, I supplied the technique, and history was made. And history was made also because the great Jack Buck was on the call. Smith, corks one down the line. It may go, go crazy, folks, go crazy. The Cardinals have won the game by the score of 3-2 on a home run by the Wizard. I know that because I've heard it so many times. And tell you a very quick story. When I was signing autographs one day, I had a little kid that came up to the desk to ask me to sign some cards, and he could barely see over the table. And his mom says, do it for him. He did that. Smith corks one down the line. It may go. She said that every time that they got in the car, he had to put that tape in. And, the great Jack Buck on that call is what has endeared me to Cardinal lore.
I'll tell you, it was just a tremendous memory. And a great friend of the show, Vince Coleman. And we talked a little bit about before the show how great it was for Vince to get on and be a table setter, and you hit behind him. And some of the advantages it was to have a guy like that who, listen, I'm going to say arguably between him and Ricky Henderson, they were the best base stealers of the 80s and early 90s in baseball. Maybe talk a little bit about it was like hitting behind somebody like a Vince Coleman and some of the pitches that you got that you may not have gotten without Vince.
Well, when I came over, I hit 8 in the lineup, and I had to work extremely hard. And hitting 8, Whitey told me, he said, hey, people think that when you hit 8, you're trying to hide somebody in the lineup. He said, but you're like a second leadoff hitter in our lineup because you can take pitches, you can steal bases, and you have discipline at the plate. So take a lot of pride in hitting 8 because it's a very important part of the lineup. But I have worked myself and have become good enough to hit in the second spot in the lineup. And actually one year I got to hit 3rd, so wow. I worked extremely hard on becoming a better offensive player, and because I knew that there was no reason for me with my hand and eye coordination not to be a better offensive player. And so I'd worked my way to being able to be a number 2 hitter who could hit behind a guy like a Vince Coleman, who was a real student of base stealing, and having the opportunity to sit down and talk to Vince. And even as his teammate, we had no idea that he was as knowledgeable about stealing bases as he was. And it was easy for me because there were many times that I didn't even take the bat off my shoulder and he's standing on third base. And being a contact guy, that gave us an advantage right away. Sure. So in the first or second inning, we're up by a run or 2 before they could even blink. So it was nice being able to hit behind someone who had his ability to steal bases and the confidence that it took for him to be able to do that. And I think at one time he stole 50 straight. And I had to tell him, hey, Vince, okay, now you got your 50, you got your 50 straight. Now let's go. Let's turn it up.
Well, I have to say, Al, you're a football guy. They basically had a 4x400 relay team between yourself, Vince, Willie McGee, and Lonnie Smith. You guys were a 4x400 relay team.
Yeah, we were good. We were switch hitters too, So that was the first time that had really happened, where you had 4 or 5 switch hitters in the lineup, and that made it a little bit easier for Whitey to manage as well.
Ozzie, I got a what if question. If Vince Coleman had stayed with St. Louis, would he be a Major League Baseball Hall of Famer?
He possibly could have been, and sometimes it's always appears to be greener on the other side, and you can't begrudge a guy for, going to where, he's gonna get compensated or get compensated what he feels he's worth, and it's happened to a lot of people. And certainly looking back on it now, I think if Vince had it to do over again, knowing what he knows now, probably would have stayed with the Cardinals. But, everybody has their own road, and he had to take a different route.
Yeah.
Understood.
Vince talked about the 85 series, which he missed due to that tragic, accident getting rolled up by the tarp. I say that if there's a healthy Vince Coleman leading the Cardinals, I think they beat the Dodgers that year. I really do. Now, my question's more of like Whitey. Did he give you guys the green light? And what type of a manager was Whitey Herzog? Because he initially was with Kansas City, got him to World Series, battled the Yankees, and then he comes over to crosstown St. Louis. What type of a manager was he, and what kind of liberties did he give you on the base paths?
Well, we all had the green light until we did something stupid, until you start running in the outs. But for the most part, we did all have the green light, and he trusted our abilities. He only had 2 rules: be on time and give 100%. And as a big leaguer, if we can't abide by those rules, then we probably shouldn't be here. And so it was very easy coming to the ballpark every day because he was a great communicator. He could if I wasn't going to play, he would call me into the office and say, "Hey, I'm going to give you a break on this day, and you'll be back out there." It's one of the things that he did with his outfielders. He did it with the pitchers. He did it with everybody. And I think that that's what made him such a great manager, in his ability to communicate with guys. We all knew what our roles were, and we performed our roles as best we could and as consistently as we possibly could. And I think that that's what you got a chance to see on a daily basis, at how we were able to win so much in the 80s, because it was very consistent. Our lineups, our lineup was pretty consistent as well. We had interchanging parts. We had people that he'd go to first, coming off the bench, but you knew exactly what your role was, and it made it easy coming to the ballpark every day because we knew we had a good chance to win. The other thing was that we knew that with him sitting in the dugout, we were never going to be outmanaged.
I tell you what, Ozzie, that was going to be one of the questions I asked about the team chemistry. When great teams have great team chemistry, and you got egos obviously as well, but to blend the two and make it all right and be successful, I mean, it had to be something special. Talk about that team chemistry you guys had on your 82 championship team, and obviously with 85 and 87 when you guys went back to the Temple, but you didn't come away with the gold.
No, we didn't. But I always ask people, I say, how do you spell chemistry? You spell chemistry W-I-N. And we had a chance to win a lot in the 80s because we were very fundamentally sound. We didn't beat ourselves. And that was one of the things that Whitey talked about, not beating ourselves. And I think that we were probably as much or more fundamentally sound than all of the opposition. And that, even to today, the teams that are fundamentally sound are teams that are, over the long haul, over 162 game schedule, are going to win more. You gotta catch. I know that if I catch it, I throw it, I hit, and I run better than the opposition, I increase my chances of winning. And that's baseball, and that's never going to change. And I think we've kind of gotten away from that today, with analytics and all of that stuff. The bottom line is that if I go out there and I catch it, I hit it, I run it, I throw it, I do that more consistently than the opposition without beating myself, I got a better chance of winning.
Well, we have some more questions out there with some of our viewers. So, Joni, let's get to a couple more questions for our special guest tonight, Ozzie Smith.
Okay, so Rob and Stu want to know, who do you think is the best shortstop in the modern game?
Ooh, okay.
I don't know. Sometimes you get yourself in trouble when you start talking about who is better, this, that, or the other. I think that each shortstop that plays is very unique in the way that they do it. What was his name? De La Cruz in Cincinnati is an exciting guy. He's big, he's strong, and he can run like a deer. Lindor in New York's. He's very unique. He can hit with power. He can hit for average. It's steal a base. So they've got a lot of good young shortstops around. We have one here in Mason Wynn who, is just getting his feet wet this year. But I think that he's going to, barring any serious injury, I think that over the long haul, he's going to be a good one. So there are a lot of good young shortstops around who have the ability. Now it's just a matter of time. It's how great they become.
Good question, Rob and Stu, on that one.
You got Mookie Betts at shortstop, right, for the Dodgers.
Yeah, and I think that just speaks to, how good of an athlete that he is, that he can come from the outfield and watching the way that he plays. I think he's played some infield before, probably as a youngster growing up and stuff. But because he's such a good offensive player, they moved him to the outfield. But here again, his versatility is what makes the Dodgers so good. His ability to move from the outfield and come in, and he's doing a super job there at shortstop as well. And it's about being consistent, and he's given them a lot of consistency.
To that point, I'm a Red Sox fan, so we miss Mookie big time. But he was an infielder in the minors, and when he went to AAA, they said, well, we need outfielders. They put him in the outfield, and he turned into a Gold Glove. He's a Hall of Fame type player right now, a Gold Glove player. He's proven his versatility. He can do it at multiple positions.
Right. If you put him at any position, any position that you put him in, he's going to be able to play. And that goes for any sport that you put him in. I'm not saying he's going to be great or he'd be a Hall of Famer, but he'd be good at it because of his commitment, because of his consistency and his makeup.
I agree.
Yeah, Ozzie played with a great one, Dave Winfield.
Oh,
yes,
he could have played basketball. He could have done anything he wanted.
Drafted in 3 pro sports, I believe it was baseball, football, and basketball out of the University of Minnesota.
Right.
Yeah, he was a great player.
My big brother, yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So looking back, go ahead, Benny.
No, I wanted to ask Ozzie because we talked before. You must have had some high school baseball team if you and Eddie Murray were on the team.
Yeah,
how'd you guys do? Any state titles or?
No. We'd always get beat out by Robin Young and Taft High School out of the Valley.
Wow.
Yeah. Okay. So but we had a lot of guys that got drafted. We played in an area that was kind of rich in ball players. From Chet Lemon to Kenny Landreau to Lonnie Smith, Gary Landreau. Alexander. Wow. The list just goes on and on of guys that all played around the Los Angeles area there, and that's when the percentage of black players was really up there, because you had a lot of guys that were playing it, and over the years, guys have we've gotten away from the sport.
Yeah, and we're going to touch on that. I do want to touch on right now the lack of African Americans in professional baseball and maybe some of the reasons why you think that might be. We addressed that with Vince on an earlier show, but right now we still have a couple more questions out there from some of our viewers. So let's go to Joni.
We do, but I also wanted to read some of the comments here because they're really good. So Barry Smith says, Ozzie, that you are the best defensive shortstop to ever play the game.
I think he's the best shortstop to ever play the game. Come on.
And then Donna Warren, she says, I'm from STL, Games and Your Restaurant. Eric Warren, a recipient of won an award from you at the Boys Club where the Browns used to play. We have the picture. My husband was also an awesome catcher.
Yeah, and we miss Eric. We miss Eric a lot. We lost Eric.
He's a neighbor, yeah.
Yeah, he was a neighbor, and we lost him. And Donna and her boys, Blake and Clark from St. Louis, big Aussie fans. So thank you so much for Donna for tuning in and checking out tonight's show. And we do miss Big E. We'd have some questions
we
now?
do have some. Yes, we do. So Rob wants to know, who gave you the Wizard nickname?
I have no idea where that came from. I think that, when you talk about baseball, we always use nicknames. We don't say, "Hey, Osborne, how you doing?" We always say, we shorten it. So Oz and the way that I played with what people would consider magic, I think is how that all came about. But I don't know any particular moment that someone said, "Hey, you are the wizard." I think they just kind of got Oz and Wizard together there, and over the years, it just kind of took on a life of its own.
Ozzie, is there any way could you come back for a second segment with us, because we still have more questions? I want to get to some of the things that you're working on, the PGA Reach program, and some other things and rule changes in baseball. Is there any way you could hang out for a little bit longer with us?
Sure. Yeah.
All right. Well, listen, I know I'm throwing Tony a curveball. This is Major League Baseball show. So, Tony, can we come back from a commercial and we'll bring back the Wizard of Oz, Benny the Book, and my man Al the Rattler Chester. We'll do that with your questions right after this.
Jim's Pawn and Gun Shop, located at 4212 Oleander Drive, Wilmington's #1 firearms dealer. Sporting a large inventory, including all brands of handguns and long guns, a full stock of accessories, and all types of ammunition, Jim's Pawn and Gun Shop has it all, including the best customer service in the area.
Before the lights go out, call Wilmington Generators. We offer the lowest price and a 10-year warranty for all Briggs & Stratton installations. A Briggs & Stratton powers more of your home for less money. Call for a free quote. Wilmington Generators. We play with power.
Welcome back to Swartz Talkin Sports. I'm your host, Les Swartz. Well, two of these gentlemen you see all the time, and that's my co-host, Al the Rattler Chester, and Benny the Book, King of Carolina, and our special guest tonight, Hall of Fame shortstop from the St. Louis Cardinals, Ozzie, the Wizard of Oz Smith. So, Ozzie, we still have some questions out there, so let's go back and get a couple more, Joni.
Yes. Barry Smith wants to know, you won every major award. Which one means the most to you?
That's a good question.
Here again, never played a game for awards. I think those are things that come along as you're doing your job every day. If I had to choose one, I think 1992, I won a Father of the Year award. And I say that because, when you're playing, you miss so many birthdays and special times for your kids. And so we spend our time trying to manage, getting to those special days and special things. So in 1992, winning that award, I think is one of the, it's right up at the top. The Roberto Clemente Award, which is one that is service above self. Those two are probably the two most important, because I think it talked about giving something back and, having a good relationship with your kids, which is very hard to do when you're playing 162 games. You're away from home a lot. So I took a lot of pride in that.
Now, I was going to bring this up because Father's Day is in June, and everyone on this panel is a dad. Your son Nico was an American Idol participant in 2005. How did that? I mean, how proud of? I mean, that's pretty awesome. I mean, that's pretty cool.
Well, it's cool because he found that thing that he was passionate about, and I tell kids and parents that if the kid finds that thing that they're passionate about early enough in their life, they'll never work a day in their lives. And as you can imagine, kids of people who have excelled at whatever it is they do in their lives, be it music or sport. People expect their kids to follow in the footsteps. And that was always going to be a challenge for my kids and stuff. And so I never forced them into trying to do what it was that I did. And he found that thing that he was passionate about. And it's been great. This past weekend, we had the East-West All-Star game at the Hall of Fame, and he got to sing the national anthem there, so that's pretty cool. That's always great to see your kids doing things that are good things and things that they enjoy,
that they make them happy and that they love to do.
Yes,
that's a proud moment. We got more questions, Joni?
We do. Yes,
we do. Ozzie, you're popular. You are popular, not just in St. Louis.
So Rich Trotta has a good question. What do you think about current compensation compared to when you played, and which is better for baseball?
Well, of course, if we could turn back the time, It was much would have been it would have been much better now. But we could say the same thing about the generation that played before us. We got compensated for our time when it was and stuff. And I think it just speaks to the progression of the game and how much better the game has become and how much more lucrative it's become. I have no complaints. I got compensated for playing a game that I love, and I didn't consider it working at all, and I reached the highest level at one point. I was probably highest paid player in the game for like 10 minutes. And so reaching that pinnacle was a good one, especially for a guy who was notably a defensive guy, So, it was a good run for me. And I think looking at it today, it's much more lucrative, and it's nice to have been a part of what has allowed these guys today to make a lot more money and live some pretty decent lives.
Al, they would have had to back the Brinks truck up to pay the Wizard these days with the way he played. And not just the way you played, Ozzie, but you played so many games every year. It wasn't this type of load management. I know we talk about it a lot in the NBA and in basketball, but you played, basically the majority of 162 games, which, Al, you always talk about on the body, what it does to you.
I averaged, I think, 154, 155 games, and I think see, to me, winning is much more than making a great play or getting a big hit. Winning is being able to help your team psychologically. Me back there at 65 or 70% is going to be better than somebody else at 100% from a confidence standpoint as far as pitching and stuff is concerned. If a pitcher has that type of confidence in your abilities to do things, he's going to do better himself because of his mental state.
If you look up consummate professional in the Encyclopedia Dictionary, you're going to see the Wizard of Oz picture right there, big and tall. I tell you, he's a pro.
Thank you,
he's
Al.
a pro, man.
Thank you.
Hey, let me ask you this question though: what are your thoughts on Barry Bonds and Pete Rose not being in the Hall of Fame and that whole deal?
Well, here again, I think that when you look at the game today, it's hard to understand how they're going to be able to keep Pete Rose out of the game. As far as steroids and stuff is concerned, everybody that's been associated with that, it's going to be a little longer and maybe a tougher road. But as far as Pete is concerned, with all of the gambling that you have now, it's hard to believe that they can continue to keep him out. I think he's paid his debt to society. Mm-hmm. And, for the things that he's been able to accomplish on the baseball field, which were unparalleled, I think that, and I don't know if they'll do it posthumously, but, looking at the way things are today, and especially in light of the fact that Ohtani and all of that thing that's going on in Los Angeles,
mm-hmm.
Pete is very deserving to be in the Hall of Fame. Although he's in the Hall of Fame, he just doesn't have a plaque.
Yeah, how can you keep up the all-time leading hitter at baseball? I mean,
the way he played the game, it was just, he played the game the way it should be played.
Benny,
that's right.
He was an all-star in 3 positions.
What?
Yeah,
every day.
You can't deny greatness. Period.
That's right.
Anyway,
that's right.
Yeah.
And then here again, I don't think that we can say that the things that he achieved with substance, with abusing the substance. He was Charlie Hustle for a reason.
Right.
He ran every ball out. He played the game hard. He played it the way the game was designed to be played, and I think he's very deserving.
I totally agree.
Oz, I saw in your Cardinal lineup, you play with a lot of great hitters. Pedro Guerrero, Pendleton. And obviously, you said you played with Winfield. And did you get to play with Tony Gwynn at all?
No, I didn't get to play with Tony at all. But Tony and I played we were always locker mates at All-Star games,
Mm-hmm.
So got to spend a lot of time with him. And, and one of the things that we talked about earlier was the fact that as great a hitter as he was, and he won, 9-10 batting
titles,
crowns.
Yeah.
But the thing that he prided himself on was winning a Gold Glove. And my thing was to win myself a Silver Slugger, which I was able to do in 1987. So if proving to no one else, I proved to myself that I was capable of doing that thing that I wanted to do when I got to the big leagues in 1978.
Any more questions?
Yes, we have a few. We do, yes. So Barry Smith wants to know, all things considered, do you think baseball is a young man's game?
Well, it can be of course it's a young man's game, but I think it's the wisdom that older guys bring. I don't think that you should just take a guy out and say that, hey, when he turns 35 or 36 years old, that you should get rid of him. I think it's all about his knowledge and his experience that will help young players. And I think that that's part of the problem today, is that you don't have enough older guys around who have that experience to be able to share with some of the younger guys. And I think when you look at clubs today, not having that, I think, is what part of the reason that they're not excelling a little bit more. You need that experience. There's no substitute for experience.
Oh, that's true. That's true in sports and in life, I would say. And you guys had a tremendous rivalry, I'd say, in the mid-'80s with the Giants. The Giants were a slugging ball club, and there was some things going on. We caught some video, and I know we spoke over that before the show, and you were telling us that it wasn't a one-time occurrence. It was kind of a buildup of things, and we can run the clip. Maybe you can talk a little bit about, there was a little bit of a melee in one of the games, and Will Clark, a very good hitter, first baseman, an all-star type player. Maybe you can talk a little bit towards what led up and in the reasoning that kind of it boiled over that night.
Yeah, well, I think it was the year before, and as a player, the only protection you have out there is the bag. And so if you allow guys to slide on the other side of the bag, then, there is no protection. And this was one of the only really big melees that we got into, but it was simply because if you look at where he slid there, he was 10 feet on the other side of the bag. And we had complained to the umpire about that, but he said, hey, it was okay. And that's what started all of that. And, it was really the only big fight that we got into in my 19-year career.
Isn't it interference, Oz, if he goes out either side of the bag to get you?
That's right.
But it doesn't pertain
at the time. Yeah,
it doesn't pertain going through, because that's ridiculous. I mean, you got to stop at the bag. You can't go into the outfield and slide and knock somebody out there.
That's exactly it. And that's what precipitated all of that, and they were doing that, that wasn't the first time that happened, so it was very apparent that, they were trying to hurt us and stuff around the bag. Of course, it's a lot different today. You can't touch a guy today. And for us, it was life or death. And we didn't mind that, as long as, they did it legally. And like you say, you should be able to still touch the bag when you slide. And when you're 10, 15 feet on the other side of the bag, that just doesn't fly.
Right. Now we had Vince on, and let's be candid. That's how we got Ozzie, is mutual friend Vince Coleman, great friend of the show, and that's how we got Al. I mean, Vince has been unbelievable for us, but Vince really wanted to talk when he came on the show earlier about the lack of African-American ball players in today's game compared to in the late 70s, early 80s. There was probably, 18 to 20% of the league was represented by African-Americans, and that's kind of really dissipated now. You've got a lot of Latin American ball players from, Dominican Republic, especially, Cuba, Venezuela, things like that. A lot of Asian representation, especially pitching. Look at Ohtani. He's the highest paid ball player of all time. I mean, I never would have thought 30 years ago that a player from Japan would be the highest paid ball player of all time. What do you attribute that to be? And is there any way of potentially turning the tide there? Do you see any way that can ever change?
Well, trying to get those numbers back up has been a real challenge. I think the RBI program, which is, I think one of the big programs that Major League Baseball has, it's tough for us here in the States because of so much red tape, as opposed to the Dominican Republic and Puerto Rico, where clubs can go over there and set up camp without all of the red tape. They start recruiting these kids when they're 7, 8 years old, and they bring them up. So when they become of age, they sign these kids, and these kids are loyal to the organizations that has helped them and their families. They eat it, they sleep it, they breathe it. They know it's a way out, so it's much more important to them than it is for us over here. Over here, I think that one of the things that's going to have we're going to have happen, or the way that I think that should happen, is that you've got to hire ex-players from each city to be able to put teams together, because those guys can go into areas that scouts or other people can't go into, to try and find young players who are interested in the game or help them become interested in the game. Mm-hmm. Most of them grow up without father figures around, so it's a real challenge to be able to get kids that may have enough talent to be good big league ball players, but they're never seen because they don't have that exposure. And I think that that's the only way, or one of the ways. The other way would be through HBCUs. I think that you're getting a lot more kids playing baseball in the HBCUs who Al knows something about, to be able to get those kids interested in the game and hopefully get those numbers back up.
And then, Ozzie, when you look back on your career, would you do anything different? Would you make a right turn instead of left at any point during your career? And then even at 41, you were still an elite player. Talk to us about why you retired, how you retired, and all of that.
Well, 40 usually is the magic number. Well, right around 35 is when they start referring to you as 35-year-old Ozzie Smith, or 35-year-old Al. And so our goal is to be able to play beyond 40. My goal was to be able to play beyond 40, and who knows what happens after that. If you get to a point to where you're fortunate enough to play to 40, then, each year is different, So the one thing that I felt that I felt I had a couple more good years in me. It didn't pan out that way. But 40, I played till I was 41, so I think that I proved my point there that you can play if given the opportunity. And I certainly was given the opportunity to play beyond 40. And I took a lot of pride in being able to still go out and perform at a high level. Now, of course, at 40 or 41, you can't play 155, 160 games as I did when I was young, but I was still I was still in shape enough to be able to go out and help my team 2 or 3 times a week.
Outstanding.
We have any more questions for Ozzie? Because we only got him for a little bit longer. So
right,
if we got him, let's get him out of here.
Yes, we do. So Barry Smith wants to know what makes you happy now?
Being able to hit that golf ball.
What's the handicap, Ozzie?
Yeah, what's your handicap? Oz, what's your handicap?
I can't tell you. If I tell you that, I'd have
a plus 2?
You.
Come on.
+2?
No, my goal is to be able to beat Vince.
Oh, okay. we hear Vince is pretty good, though.
Yeah, he's pretty good. When you have people like that you're chasing all the time, it's going to make you better, So right now I play to a 4 handicap. Very nice. Anything lower than that, I can't make any money.
Oh, wait a second. Hold on. Benny, if Ozzie played with us on Sundays, he'd be taking home the money.
Yeah, of course.
In a 4 handicap, he'd be taking home the money.
He might not like my games, though.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, Ozzie, we play games on Sunday. I can't understand half the things Benny's trying to do. I just give him the money and say, just take it.
Just give him the money and say, yeah.
Exactly.
How much do I owe you?
Well, before we let you go, I want you to talk a little bit about the PGA Reach program. We're going to put something up there, maybe how you got involved and how long you've been doing this.
Well, actually, PGA Reach, I've been, this is the 14th year. And, growing up in Southern California, as we talked about, I was never introduced to the game of golf. And so when I retired, I had that competitive void in my life, and I fell in love with the game. And I thought it would be a great way to expose kids to something other than baseball, basketball, or football, which we're used to in this inner city. So came up with a program that introduces the kids to not only the game, but the business of golf as well. And we've added a third pillar with our military that take guys who come back from war and are shut-ins. We have programs now that allow them to get back out and hang out with the guys, because the one thing that you miss the most is the camaraderie. And so we're giving people their lives back, and we're introducing kids to the business and the game of golf. And I'm very proud of that.
Outstanding. And we can throw that up real quick again, Tony, for anybody, just to show the PGA Reach program. One of our good friends, Benny, and and a subscriber to the show, Tommy C. TC. He's got the first tee program that he does.
Mm-hmm.
He's very passionate about that as well. So I think those are awesome endeavors. So we will be promoting that for you, Ozzie. We'll just keep that up there from show to show. So I just want to say thank you so much for taking time out. I know we've been a little long here, and it's been an absolute pleasure to have the best shortstop that ever played the game. Like I said, I don't throw the word GOAT around because I think it's difficult to compare era to era. But if I'm the manager and I've got to put my starting 9 out there, number 1 is shortstop for me, Ozzie Smith. So, Ozzie, thanks so much.
Thank you, Al. Thanks, Benny. Thank
Ozzie,
you guys for having me.
Ozzie, it's been an honor. It's been an honor. You're a true professional, Ozzie.
Thank you.
Wish you nothing but the best, Ozzie. You're the real deal, my man. Yes, sir.
Thank you. All right,
Ozzie, you take care. Have a great rest of the week, and we'll be back with more Benny and Al after this.
Locals Tavern, Leland, North Carolina's favorite neighborhood bar, just south of the bridge where everyone truly does know your name, offers a variety of cold brews, wine, and specialty cocktails, and offers something for everyone on their food menu. With daily lunch specials and live evening entertainment, Locals is a hot spot you won't want to miss, where you can unwind in a casual atmosphere with friends, both old and new.
Well, welcome back to Swartz Talkin Sports. I'm your host, Les Swartz. We've got Al the Rattler Chester. We've got Benny the Book, the King of Carolina. We just had the greatest shortstop, I think, in my opinion.
True legend, and great professional and a great human being.
Yeah,
it was an honor to meet him and talk to him. I mean, really, he says
the guy's a pro, man, on the field and off the field. I mean, I just enjoy hearing him articulate his journey, man. And I tell you what, it was just awesome to have him here today.
Hey, listen,
and I'm glad you came. I'm glad you were here, Les.
Yes.
I got to tell you, I'm extremely grateful that you've got me to. I get to meet guys like Al and Ozzie Smith, and these guys are really Vince Coleman, exceptional individuals that have been on our show.
Yeah, we've had a great run. I mean, it's been amazing, and we're going to do even better. I just want to talk to the people out there, viewers and subscribers to the show. We picked up like 30 plus subscribers in the last few days. I want a special shout out to Jeff at Crunch Time, who's done an incredible job. My producer, Tony, we met him at the UNCW baseball tournament at the CAA last week, and he was nice enough to really pump the word out. So I think with Crunch Time, pushing the buttons here, we could hit 1,000. I think we're making our drive to 1,000. We could make that happen. And guys, I know we were all set up to do the show without me, but I'm glad I made it back. It was like planes, trains, and automobiles, except for the trains. I was in Oklahoma City. I got delayed 4 times. I missed 2 flights out of Charlotte. I got in a rental car. That broke down, had to return that, and then jumped on a 440. And Joni picked me up at the airport a few hours ago. So glad I was able to do the show tonight. But a couple of sad things in the world of sports, guys. And, one of them being one of the all-time great legends in the NBA, Bill Walton. At age 71, passed away the other day to cancer. Didn't even know he was sick with cancer.
Yeah, I didn't either. This just came out of nowhere.
Yeah, it came out of nowhere. I mean, with me. Now, just a tremendous basketball player. Your memories, we'll go Al first. Your memories of the great Bill Walton.
Well, what I remember him back in UCLA being such a dominant center, and the headband and the beard, the long hair, the hippie look, and him having a passion and care about world events and people who aren't being treated fairly. And
Nope, we lost the video.
Oh, we lost audio.
Yeah, we lost audio on you. We can see you, but we can't hear you.
And he played with one of the guys who...
We got you. You want to go back? We missed the audio.
No, I said what I remember about him is the long hair, the headband, and him caring about people, and especially folks who were underprivileged. And he had a real true passion for that, and it carried out through his whole entire life. A unique and smart guy. I mean, the guy had a JD and was a great basketball player. And I tell you what, he was just like Ozzie, man. Those guys are cut from the same kind of mold.
Mhm.
And I tell you, heaven was a little sweeter now that Bill Walton's in heaven. But I tell you what, he was a tremendous guy, tremendous basketball player, and even a better person.
Better human being, a great human being.
A Grateful Dead. The guy was a deadhead.
Yeah.
Zach, my nephew Zach would have loved that. He was a deadhead. But just a couple of highlights on how great he was. And you remember, this is a guy who battled foot injuries. I mean, he had fused feet. He had broken bones in his foot. I mean, the guy won like 2 state titles at Helix High School in San Diego in California. Then he goes to UCLA, where he comes right after the great Lou Alcindor, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Freshmen that were ineligible back then. They win 88 straight games in 3 years with him, 2 national championships. Then he gets drafted #1 by the Portland Trail Blazers, wins the 76-77 championship over the favored Philadelphia 76ers. He's MVP, and then he has the issues with the feet. He goes to the San Diego Clippers, then the LA Clippers, and he just couldn't play, and really resurrected his career in '86 with the Celtics. Won the 6th Man of the Year award, helped the Celtics to an NBA championship in '86, and retired soon after. But he's a guy that, guys, he had a stuttering problem. If you ever see his early interviews, he could barely speak, and then he goes on national television, and then you couldn't shut him up.
Yeah.
He's a great commentator.
He was.
Oh, as a Notre Dame fan, you know what I remember about Bill Walton.
Yeah, the breaking of the 88-game win streak.
And I also remember him when I used to play basketball. He had the best bank shot. He used to do that turnaround bank shot. He was deadly. He was deadly with that shot. Okay. And he might be considered. Well, you got, now that I'm thinking about it, you got Bill Russell at San Francisco, but he might have been the second best college basketball player. Put him in there with Ralph Sampson, and he's right up there, he's right up there in the top 5 guys.
Yeah, you got to say Jabbar, Bill Russell, and Bill Walton probably were the top 3 college basketball players.
Ralph Sampson was
great,
good
but he was a 3-time player. Never won a championship though at Virginia. Never won a championship.
Well, he was at Virginia.
Yeah, never won one though. I know he didn't go to West Virginia, Benny. I got a quick story to tell about that. I actually met him in 2014 at a pharmaceutical convention. He was one of the speakers there, and him and Rick Barry. I know, pharmaceuticals, not marijuana. And I come walking out, and there he is, getting this thing into a hatchback, and he's 7. I mean, he always said he was 6'11". He was 7 feet. He did not want to be known as a 7-footer. He said, "I'm 6'11". And I walked up to him and I said, "Hi, Bill." I said, "Mr. Russell, my name's Les." He goes, "Bill." I said, "Bill." I said, "I'm from Boston. I want to thank you for 1986. He said, "No, Les, thank you." Shook his hand, nodded his head, got in his car, shut his hatchback, and drove away. And that's my interaction with Bill Walton.
Walton. Yeah.
The other thing that was kind of a sad thing in the world of sports, and I don't know why it really shook me up, but it really did. In the world of golf, Grayson Murray, who, by all accounts, had everything going for him. I just looked up his stats. 39. He earned $2.4 million this year. Won a tournament this year. 2-time winner in the PGA Tour. 30 years old. Is playing in a tournament now. Friday, says after 16, I don't want to play anymore. I'm ill. He commits suicide the next day in his hotel room. I don't know. I just mind-boggling to me. And I know that we don't talk about this kind of thing a lot, and I know a lot of people kind of hide from it, but there's an issue out there. And if you see it on the screen right now, please, if you're having any kind of issues at all and you need to speak to somebody, it's so important. Get the help you need. It's huge, because it's never too late. Once you cross that threshold, you can't come back. Life is so incredibly precious, and it really taught me, it really, really is. It really tells you what's really important in life. And I'm still like, he's not my favorite golfer. I don't follow him. But just to hear a guy like Peter Malnati, who played with him and didn't even know him that well on national TV,
know him that well,
broke down.
He broke
just
down,
about
yes.
it. It's just
they're like a brotherhood.
It's a brotherhood.
It seemed like he had turned the corner, and he was playing good golf, and
he was engaged to be married.
Yeah, who knows what demons,
Well, I want to ask Al.
Mental health.
Mental
health is an issue. It definitely is, and we take it for granted. I think we don't think about it, or we shy away from it. but that was so tragic. I mean, he playing golf. The kid's a millionaire.
Yeah.
Got everything going for him, and he takes his own life, and you don't know why. I mean, and it happens to everybody. It doesn't matter what walk of life you're in, what color you are, what background you come from. We just need to be more astute and more alert to that type of thought processes when we talk to people and share ideas and be able to reach out to folks.
Yeah. Well, we all have pressures in life, right? We do. I mean, in professional life.
Yeah.
Al, to your point, you played, competitive football. I mean, at a high level, the pressures, even back then, and people didn't talk about it, but did you ever, not you personally or know anybody that experienced just anxiety, to get on the field? It's got to be so much pressure to perform for your teammates, for your family, for your fans. Did you ever know anybody that suffered anything like that? Or was it hidden back then?
I think it was hidden a little bit, but I saw a lot of guys who didn't transition well when the game, the opportunity to play the game wasn't there anymore, going from college to pro. For an example, I saw a lot of my teammates who just didn't handle that well, who were intelligent kids, who were smart kids, but that whole deal of you're not playing any ball anymore. You've been doing this all your life, 10, 15 years of your life, and all of a sudden it stops. It was tough for people to handle. Mm-hmm. And we had some guys that made some wrong turns, and they got back on course, but I mean, some didn't get back on course, and it was challenging for them. And that's the same kind of deal, just not to the level of committing suicide. But I'm sure that some of them felt and thought that, maybe I don't need to do this anymore, Yeah,
no, I know. It's just pressures in life nowadays are just, it's like you said, we thought he had everything in front of him, but I guess all the money and things, it's at that point, it really doesn't matter. It's really not about the money. It's not, so obviously that's really, really some sad news this week with a couple people. We got about a minute to go real quick before I do the wrap, and I'm going to get really into it, but I just want to get your predictions really quick. The Boston Celtics take Indiana in 4 straight, even though they didn't blow them out in 4 games. They win 4 straight games. They're going to play the winner in Minnesota and Dallas. Right now, Dallas up 3-1. Just quickly, Al and then Benny, do the Celtics do this thing?
I think Dallas is rolling right now. I think it's going to be too much for Minnesota to overcome, and that's going to be a tremendous matchup with the Boston Celtics. I think Dallas is playing a better basketball of the two. I tell you what, they're playing lights out. They're putting that ball in a hoop. Should be a tremendous series.
Benny?
Yeah, I agree with Al. I think Doncic and Kyrie Irving, they're playing at a very high level right now, and they both. Kyrie Irving's won a championship, so he's been there. I think they could stop those guys, but you never know. I would say Boston doesn't. I don't think Boston's going to win it.
I'll just tell you one thing. They've gone on this run without Porzingis playing 1 game. He hasn't played at all. And
that's true.
And Jason Tatum, I got to tell you, Jaylen Brown won the Eastern Finals MVP. He was tremendous. And I think this is really a make or break it for Jason Tatum. I think he steps up. I think the Celtics win the championship. They've been knocking on that door for the last 4 to 5 years. I think they kick it down this year. And they beat Dallas. Yep. So listen, guys, we'll be back with the wrap. I want to talk about UNCW baseball. They won the CAA championship, and they are in the Athens, Georgia regionals this weekend. They open up against Georgia Tech. I think Tony's going to be able to run when we get back after the break. A quick interview that Mike Vaccaro, one of our guests, was able to run with Randy Hood, the head coach at UNCW. But guys, outstanding show. I appreciate your effort. I mean, listen, you guys are going to do the show without me. I was going to chat and things like that. So I'm glad we all got to do this. Ozzie was tremendous. So Al, have a fantastic week. We got a big one next week. We got another.
Yeah, I was going to say, you got to tell the guys, get your popcorn ready, because this guy has a personality that's off the chart next week.
We have the 4th FAMU athlete in the house coming on, Nate Newton, former All-Pro offensive lineman and multiple Super Bowl champions, winner with the Cowboys. So all you Dallas Cowboy fans, time to check out Nate the Kitchen Newton. That's what he was known as. So we're excited to have Nate on next Wednesday. Al, thanks for getting Nate for us. So Benny and Al, guys, have a fantastic week. Enjoy the weekend.
You too, guys.
I'll be back with the
All
wrap.
right, guys.
We'll talk about UNCW.
Glad you made it back, Les.
Thanks, guys.
Yes, sir.
Show wouldn't have been the same without you.
All right, we'll see you next Wednesday, and I'll be back with the
You
wrap.
can fill the space, but you can't take the place of Les Swartz.
Oh, my God. Al the
Way to
Rattler
go,
Chester.
Al.
He's the man. All right, listen, we'll be back.
Care,
We'll see
guys.
you guys next Wednesday. I'll be back with the wrap
Right.
after this.
You got it. Take care.
High Tide Chiropractic, located in Leland, North Carolina, off Village Road. Dr. Levi Bradburn and his team specialize not only on spinal and extremities care, but also focus on sports injuries and a variety of chronic ailments. Treatment plans may include diet and lifestyle behavioral modification to achieve optimal health. Call us to schedule your free consultation, and we will design a personalized program to meet your needs. It's time to get the results you deserve.
Welcome back to Swartz Talkin Sports. You got to love Al. I mean, he's a poet on top of everything. Doesn't take much to make me blush, but he just did it. So, again, thanks to our very special guest, Hall of Fame shortstop, Ozzie Smith. He was incredible. Al and Benny, who were going to pinch it for me tonight, but I was glad we were all got to do the show. A tremendous accomplishment. UNCW, our Seahawks, win their second consecutive CAA baseball championship. They take down Charleston 6-4 in the final Sunday. Tony and I went to the opening game against Delaware on Thursday night. We stayed for a while, okay? I got to say that. But, those seats, I'm telling you, sit in those aluminum seats. Mike, we need better seats next time. Get us the real good ones. So, but we just got a quick reel. Mike was able to interview the winning head coach, Randy Hood at UNCW after the victory against Charleston. So let's have Mike Vaccaro and Randy Hood's interview real quick.
Coaches, talk about today's win, 8th championship for the program, new conference record. Just talk about how things went.
Just another tough battle with a really good team on the other side. Just proud of our guys. Thought we didn't, come out with the looseness and just the maturity as a team as we have been playing. And I felt like we misplayed some balls that we should normally play and took a little time out, just got everybody hopefully focused. And, after that, we played really good. We got a heck of a relief appearance from Trey Baker. And then got some timely hits. Trevor Marsh got another timely hit, and then Brock Wills got one to kind of separate us right there at the end a little bit, give us that extra run. But just, proud of the guys. You look at the numbers, eighth title, 12th regional in the last 24 years. I think we've been in the championship game 8 out of the last 9 seasons. And we've been in the championship 38 consecutive seasons. That just speaks a lot of volume about people that have been in this program from the past to the present and where we're moving forward. So I'm just so proud of them.
And again, special thanks to Mike Vaccaro for sending that to Tony. That was UNCW Seahawks head coach, Randy Hood. Congratulations to the Seahawks, winners of this year's CAA baseball tournament. They open up play Friday against Georgia Tech. They're in the Athens, Georgia region with Georgia Tech, Georgia, and Army. So let's see it. It's the regional. They've never been to a super regional before. Could happen this year. They've got a real competitive team. So again, great show tonight. It took a lot to get back, but I'm glad I am back. So for Tony the Tiger Smeraldi, for Joni, for everyone at Swartz Talkin Sports, we'll see you next Wednesday at 8 p.m. Nate the Kitchen Newton, former Dallas Cowboy, great offensive lineman. Have a great week, everyone.